All right, so this is part two of our super awesome, amazing fitness tracker journey. In part one, we set up this spreadsheet. We can type out an item and the nutritional info will automatically appear. We made a super cool chart that updates automatically and will show our daily calorie intake. And we made a super cool summary page that shows us how much we ate today and compares that to the target that we set to show us how many calories that we have left. Today is part two, and we're really gonna beef things up. We're gonna add a fitness tracker that tracks how many calories you burn during a workout. And we're gonna have that tracker take those calories and add them to your daily allowance so you truly have a good idea of how many calories you have left every day. We're gonna make a cool chart that shows you what exercise you do and how many calories it burned over a period of time. And lastly, we're gonna add a weight tracker so that you can adjust your target as the year progresses and also see where you stand in relationship to that target, ultimately to find out if you're meeting your goals or if you're falling behind. Now, if you missed part one, I recommend you go back and check it out before starting here. We're going to be doing a lot of the same functions that we used in part one, so I'm going to be covering them a little bit quicker than before. So let's get started. Currently, I've got the exact same spreadsheet that we finished part one with last time. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to make an exercise tracker that counts the number of calories that we do for every exercise. Rather than starting from scratch, let's click on the meal tracker down below. I'm going to right click on the tab. I'm going to go to move or copy. And then where I have the option to either move it, I'm going to make sure that I click the create a copy box. To keep things organized, we're going to select move to the end and then click OK. And you can see down below in all of our different spreadsheets, we now have a meal tracker 2. I'm going to right click on this meal tracker 2 and I'm going to go to rename and I'm going to type out exercise tracker. I'm going to click enter when that's done. And now we have what's going to become the exercise tracker. Now, of course, this was set up for food, so we're going to want to change a couple things. We'll keep the date the same. Where it says food, let's change that to exercise so that we write down what exercise we performed. I'm going to highlight columns D through F, right click and click delete. And where it says calories currently, I'm going to put calories burnt because we want to know how many calories we burn for every single workout session that we do. I think that we should add a couple more columns as well. So I'm going to right click on the C and I'm going to click insert and let's write out duration to see how long we worked out. And I'm going to want to put that in hours. And the last thing that I want to do is I'm going to make another gray column like this one. And I want to type out calories burned per hour. We'll just do calories per hour here. And now we kind of have the good bones, I would call it, of what the exercise tracker is going to look like. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to clear all of the data that's currently in the tracker because it's set up the same way that the food tracker was. And since we're kind of making this completely different, we can kind of start from scratch. A quick way to do this is I'm going to highlight A2 over to E2 because that's my last column. Once everything's highlighted, you can hold Shift, Control, and then the down arrow. And it's going to highlight all of the cells on your spreadsheet. From here, I'm just going to click delete. And then when I go back to the top, it looks like it's removed everything, which is perfect. Now, if you remember from part one, we had the meal tracker and all the information that pulled in the nutritional info pulled from the meal library. So similar to that, we're going to go in and I'm going to make an exercise library the same way. To save some time, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the tracker, where I'm going to right click on the meal library this time, and I'm going to do move or copy. I'm going to click create a copy, move to the end, click OK. I'm going to right click to rename this. Instead of meal library, I'm going to say exercise library. Click enter. And this time I really only need two things. So I'm going to delete columns C and D. I'm going to change the name of column A to exercise because we want to know what exercise we're doing. And then column B, I'm going to say how many calories are burnt per hour. And we're going to use this per hour format to standardize all the exercises that we do. And then in the tracker itself, we're going to give Excel the ability to adjust the number of calories burnt based on how long we did it. Maybe that didn't make much sense what I just said, but all you got to know is we just need to search how many calories are burnt per hour for what exercise we're going to be doing, and we're going to have Excel figure out the rest later. So inside this library, we can enter some common exercises that we do. Here I just added some basic ones. I did biking, swimming, and running, and I just estimated what the calories were, but you can either go to Google and maybe find the values based on your height and weight, because that will, of course, affect how many calories are burnt. Or you could have more specific ones, like you could say maybe running hills, and perhaps that burns a couple more. You can be as specific as you want, but for my tutorial, I'm just going to keep the 3 because I feel like that's more easy to work with. So now that we have the exercise library built out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the exercise tracker down below. To make this a little bit easier to understand, I'm going to put in some fake information. So I'm going to put in a date that I worked out, we'll say today, when I'm making the tutorial. We're going to say that I swam today, and I'm going to say that I actually did it for a half hour. And since we put the duration in hours, I don't want to put 30 minutes. I'm just going to do 0.5. Obviously, if I did a full hour, I would just put the number 1, and you get it. So in column D and E, but we'll start in D, we're going to do XLOOKUPs again, similar to how we did in part 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click equals XLOOKUP, open the parentheses. This time for the lookup value, I'm going to click on B2 because I'm going to have it look for the exercise performed. I'm going to click comma. And now once the comma is typed, I'm going to go over and I'm going to click the exercise library tab. Once I'm over there, I'm going to highlight column A because this is where it's going to look for that word swim. I'm going to type another comma, and I want it to return the number of calories per hour. So I'm going to click on B this time. And once that's clicked, I can close the parentheses, click enter, and now you can see that Excel is returning the number of calories that are burnt per hour from swimming. Now this is cool, but obviously we know that we only worked out for half hour. So I'm going to click into cell E2. And here we don't really need a function, but we're going to use some basic arithmetic inside of Excel. So I can just click equals, and then I'm going to click D2, and we want to multiply that by the value in C2. So I'm going to click on C2, and I'm going to click enter. And you can see now Excel is returning the amount of calories burnt as 300. Just to kind of test this out, let's click into C2 and let's pretend that I actually worked out for 1 hour. So I'm going to type 1. You can see that calories burnt adjusted to 600 calories. And let's say that I was feeling really crazy that day and I swam for 3 hours. Well, now it's saying that I burnt 1800, so that's perfect. Keep it reasonable, I'm going to do the 0.5, goes back to 300, and we are good to go now. So we now have a function that returns this. I'm going to highlight D2 to E2. I'm going to grab the bottom right corner, and I'm going to drag it down quite a ways. I've taken the function, and I've dragged it down maybe about, 1,000 cells or so, and then I'm going to let go. And all these zeros appeared, which is good because it means that the function is present inside of the cells, but it's not returning anything. I'm going to just test this out to make sure everything is working properly again. I'm going to say that it's today again. And this time, let's say that I ran. And let's just say that I did this for 1 hour, and I'm getting the NA error. Now, the reason for an NA error with any sort of lookup is because the lookup isn't finding the value that you specified, that first value that we put inside of the function. So the easy thing to do when this happens is go to your table array and see if the value is there. So obviously in the XLOOKUP, it's looking for B3, and I put ran, and it's not seeing it. So I'm not going to click inside of the function. I'm just going to click the tab to kind of look. And you can see here that I wrote run, not ran. So that's the reason why it's returning the NA error. I'm going to click back on my cell. I'm going to type out run this time to see if that helps. Click enter. And now, perfect. I ran for 1 hour, or I run for 1 hour, maybe would be a better way of saying it. And it returned that I burnt 400 calories. So that's wonderful. I know that this now works, and I can put out whatever workout I want, and it's returning the calories properly. So don't worry about doing this necessarily. You can if you want to, maybe pause the video, but I'm going to enter some random data here just so that I can see if the chart that I'm about to make is going to work properly. So with the power of editing, 3, 2, 1, I have a workout history for the last week or so. Next, let's add a chart so that we can see our progress and see where we're at. I'm going to click on the little area between the A and the 1 to highlight everything. We're going to click Insert tab up top, and then where it says Pivot Chart right here, I'm just going to click the kind of icon above it. We're going to leave everything how it defaults, and I'm going to click OK. And the first thing I like to do with any pivot chart is change the name of the tab. So you can see that it named it Sheet 3, which is not helpful to me at all. I'm just going to say Exercise Pivot. That is, of course, optional, but it keeps everything organized and beautiful. I'm going to click into that white chart again, and then you'll see the area over to the right appears, just like it did with the fitness chart that we made, or the calorie chart. We're going to take the column that said date up here, and I'm going to drag it down into the access bucket, let go, and nothing appeared, but that's okay. And then we want to take the calories burnt, and we want to drag it down to the value bucket. Release, and now we're starting to see some progress here. I'm going to make the chart a little bit bigger just so you can see it, and we're going to add some cosmetic changes to it. So I'm just going to name this maybe Calorie Workout Summary. I'm going to get rid of the blanks because you know I hate that. I'm going to click the Design tab up top, and I'm going to make it look a little bit cooler. I'll click this dark format because I think it looks pretty slick. And one thing that I think would be really cool with this is if we had additional data so that we can see at a high level what kind of exercise we performed. So to do that, I'm going to take the exercise column over here, and I'm going to drag it into the bucket that says Legend with series in parentheses. I'm going to let go. And now you can see it's the exact same information, but it differentiates what kind of exercise I did, which it's definitely optional, but I think it's kind of cool. I resized a little bit more, and I would say that overall I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I'm going to right click on the chart, and I'm going to move this to the Fitness Overview tab like we did last time. So right click, we're going to scroll down, and we're going to click on Move Chart. This little box is going to appear, and it gives us the option to move it into a new sheet or into an existing one. And we want to do the object in, which is kind of like the existing sheet. I'm going to click the drop down, and we're going to select the name of the sheet that we want it moved to, which is the Fitness Overview. Once that's selected, I'm going to click OK. And now you can see that our chart appeared, which is super cool. I'm going to zoom out. First, I'll close this, and then I'll zoom out just a bit. I'm going to move it over to the right so that it kind of matches where our calorie intake is. So if you're following along, I log into my spreadsheet here, or I open it up, and I can see by this sheet how many calories I ate each day, and by this one, how much I worked out and how many calories I burnt each day, which is really kind of cool. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is super important. I need you to make sure that you like the video that you're watching right now and click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Doing this tells me that you like the content, and I'm going to keep making more. I'm new to YouTube, and it really helps me out. Back to Excel, let's keep working on this Fitness Overview tab. So I'm going to move these charts down just a little bit to create some room. And in my mind, when I've used a fitness tracker in the past, it's been really helpful to log into the tracker, know how much I've ate each day, and know how much calories I burnt or how many calories I burnt so that I have a good idea of how many calories are remaining, right? And I think right now, our tracker, we set it up so that it just has how many calories we ate. It'd be kind of cool to have a different row here that also says how many we burnt. So to do that, we don't really need to reinvent the wheel. We're just going to insert another row and make a function that does just that for us. So I'm going to click on the 4 so that all of row 4 is highlighted. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to click Insert. So that put a little bit of a space between consumed and remaining. From here, let's label this one calories burnt, maybe. And inside of B4, which is the space next to calorie burnt, we're going to do the equals SUMIF function, just like we did in part 1 for the food. The first thing that Excel asks for is the range, which is where it wants to find the criteria. So the criteria is going to be, it needs to be today's date that the exercise happened. So I'm going to go over to the exercise tracker, and I'm going to click on column A. Once that's selected, I'm going to type comma. And now it wants to know what the criteria is. So back and forth, I'm going to click over to the fitness overview tracker, which is where we just were. And I'm going to click on cell A, or actually, excuse me, B1, because that's where we have the current day polling. I'm going to type a comma again. And the last thing that it needs is the sum range. So it looks for today's date over in the exercise tracker, right? It knows that it's today's date because we reference cell B1 here. Now it's saying, okay, well, what do you want me to add? So for the last time here, we're going to go over to the exercise tracker, and we want it to add column E because that's how many calories we burnt that day. I'm going to put a parentheses, and I'm just going to leave this up for just a minute so you can see how it looks up top here. Feel free to pause if you need to. And once the parentheses is closed, I'm going to click enter. I can see that it's returning 400 calories burnt today. Right now it's 12:16. Let's just go into the tracker to make sure that makes sense. Looks like I worked out once. I ran for 1 hour, which was 400. Yep, and it's burning 400, so that's perfect. So it appears to be working correctly. And the last thing I want to do in the summary area is I want to change this calories remaining because right now it's saying that I've got 1440 left. We also want to add into our allocation of calories per day the exercise that's burnt. So to do this, I just cleared the value. I'm going to click equals, and then in parentheses, I'm going to do my target plus the calories burnt because I feel like if I burn the calories, I can add that to my target per day. I'm going to close the parentheses, and then I want to subtract how many I ate. So B2 plus B4 minus the calories consumed. I'm going to click enter, and that is correct because it's saying that I should have 1900 calories per day to consume because I worked out for 400 and added that to my 1500 target. And then it subtracted 60 from it. And it's pulling this 60 because in my meal tracker, it looks like I just ate one orange, which was 60 calories. So this appears to be working correctly here, which is super, super exciting. I'm going to zoom out again, just so we can kind of get a good look at what we're doing. I'll move these around. And then the last thing that I want to do is I want to make a weight chart because obviously, we've got the calories, we're looking at them, we're working out like maniacs. I want to see if our weight is improving or getting worse throughout the year. And this is going to be about the easiest thing that we do. Down below, I've got the exercise pivot tab. I'm just going to right click that and click hide like before, just to make everything clean. And since we're making a tracker, I'm just going to click on the exercise tracker, move or copy, create a copy, move it to the end, and I'm going to call this one a weight tracker. Get rid of the 2, click enter. And of course, with the weight tracker, we really only need 3 things if you think about it. We need the current date, what our weight is, and then we'll do a target as well. I'll keep the dates in to make it look clean. And then I'm going to add some random weights. And let's just say that my target is, we'll say 210 for a few days. And then we'll say that I adjust it to 205 because I somehow want to lose 5 pounds abruptly right there. And that's really all there is to a tracker. So in my scenario here, my expectation is that I'm going to probably weigh myself once per day, come in, and then just type in what my weight was, which you would need to do in any other tracker too, really. From here, I kind of like charts because I think they're easier to look at and easier to see the progress over time. I'm going to highlight columns A through C. I'm going to go to insert up top, and I'm going to want to add a chart. But to see all of the options, I'm going to click the little CL Charts button in the bottom right of that area. From here, I'm going to go to the All Charts tab up top, and you really have a lot of options on what you want to select. There's a million different chart templates for a million different things, but for me in this example, I'm just going to go to the line section, and I really like this one over to the right here. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click OK. It appears here. And let's call this one weight progress. You can see on this, our blue line represents what my weight is each day, and then the orange line is what my target is. So anytime the blue line is above the orange, I'm overweight according to the standards that I've set for myself, and anytime the blue is below the orange, I would say that I'm meeting my target, assuming that my target is to lose weight, of course. I'm going to click up in the chart design, the little dark template again, just to match the rest. We're going to right click on the chart like before. Let's click on Move Charts. We'll move it to the fitness overview. And now we have a third chart that will update as we put more information into it. And that's pretty much going to wrap up part 2 of this series. We now have a tracker that we can go into, enter whatever food we want. The calories will appear automatically. It'll tell us how much we want to eat per day and how the exercise that we did affects that calorie target. We also have a weight progress tracker to see if we're meeting or not meeting our goals. And that's about it, honestly. If there's anything else that anybody wants to see, make sure to put it in the comments below. I'm happy to make a part 3 if there's enough people that want a certain thing that I missed. But other than that, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and recommend any more projects that I can do that could help you out. Thanks again.